Okay, guys, the floor is yours, lady and gentlemen, to help educate our people on this TPS. You would arrange amongst yourselves how you present the information, questions you take. We'll just let you run this segment. It's too technical for us, so we'll hand the floor to you, and then you introduce yourselves, your states, and then take it from there. Thank you for being here.
Okay, so I'll prefer, I don't know, a preference, but if Mr. Akufor Aneneba Esquire could proceed, and then Mr. Pryde Ndingwan Esquire could follow.
Hey, thank you so much, and it's a real honor, it's a real pleasure being amongst you guys today. And again, thanks to Professor Anyangwe for the very brilliant presentation. He was my teacher, and he's still my teacher till today, and I'll always respect that. So, and again, thanks for inviting us today to talk about the temporary protected status that was granted to Cameroonians, the Southern Cameroonians included, and the Republic of Cameroon also included. My name is Aneneba Akufor. The innocent is a middle name, which I really like to use. So Aneneba Akufor is a better way to make a presentation of me, because those are my traditional, Santa names, which I always pridefully carry along with me. So I am an attorney and I practice here in the United States. I am an author of the book, The Land We Leave Behind, which is a chronicle of our struggles, our civilization, and where we are today, as a people. But coming on the backdrop of Professor Anyangwe, it's a little bit difficult to, present yourself in a much more perfect way, because, he did it all. But because we are here to talk about TPS, I don't know how you want us to run this for my friend Barrister Pryde to go ahead and introduce himself, and we go ahead and tell you what TPS is, or I don't know how you want us to run that, but I think I'll give Mr. Pryde to introduce himself, then you guys can let us know what exactly you want us to talk about the TPS.
So just to
makes sense. Sorry.
Yes, just to say that after Barrister Pryde introduces himself, I have a few questions which are kind of frequently asked questions, and then you can always elaborate on your answers and give us more information if you need. But just a few questions to lead the conversation, and then you can take off from there. Mr. Pryde, and welcome to the South Cameroon International Town Hall.
Hello, thank you all very much. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so very much for the opportunity.
We cannot see you. Pryde, your camera is off. Okay, good.
Can you see me now?
No, you went off again.
Momentarily, it came on and then go out. I mean, yeah.
Now we can see you.
Wow.
Now
there's something happening.
Okay.
Perfect.
But at least we can hear you. So I think.
Perfect.
I think, yes. Now it's perfect.
Is that good?
Yes, that's good.
Awesome. Again, thank you so much for the opportunity for us to discuss and just communion with our people, especially discussing the TPS on Cameroon. I also want to thank Professor Anyangwe for the wonderful presentation. Of course, I really admire each time he presented. I remember the days of the debate back home when he used to go at loggerheads with Professor Ngwafor. Used to really be a scene. So this is a reincarnation at a different level. Again, like I said, my name is Barrister Pryde Ndingwan. I have been practicing immigration law here in the United States for over 13 years. I've represented hundreds and hundreds of people, Cameroonians especially. And so it is my pleasure to be here. And fortunately for me, the council that I'm going to be with is a very close friend of mine. We've worked together on different issues, and so I'm glad to be a part of this panel. Now, I would suggest that maybe we give a brief rundown of what TPS is, and maybe after we do that, then we could, maybe take questions. In the course of doing that, maybe some questions will be answered, and then we just take it from there. Will be my suggestion. Barrister Innocent, I'm not sure if you agree with that.
I cannot really disagree with you, Pryde, and because I think that's just the format that's going to be much more appropriate for our listeners and the moderators, so they can actually chime in with their questions. So let's go ahead and explain what TPS is. And Council, if you want to chime in, please always let me know, because it's something both of you and I we do, and we are very conversant of what's going on. So TPS, it's called temporary protected status, which is something that was, it was initiated back in the 90s by the United States Congress. And it started because the country called El Salvador in South America, they were going through a lot of political tension and problems. So Congress decided to designate that particular country as a beneficiary of TPS. So it is something designed by Congress. Then the Department of Homeland Security is the one that authorizes or brings forth and tells the Congress what country can be designated as a beneficiary of TPS. And of course, the only reasons why TPS is issued is because there is a natural disaster where that country is, or there is a political turmoil where that country is, there is civil strife and war in that particular country. So based on that particular premise, that's where they grant you, they grant the people or the citizens of a particular country TPS. And of course, TPS, you benefit if you are in that country in the United States. So if you're out of your country and you're not on American soil, at the date that your country is being designated a beneficiary of TPS, then you do not qualify. So like the case of Cameroon, where the president decided that they would approve what the DHS, because the TPS that Cameroon is a beneficiary, I think it was tabled to the president last November, either November or October of last year. So it has been sitting there until the Ukraine crisis happened. Then they decided to jump on this also. And so that's how it's been waiting until it was issued. So, but if you were in the United States on the 14th, assuming that that's the final date that the Federal Register will churn out in the end, then if you're in the United States before the 14th of April, then you are a beneficiary of the temporary protected status. So I think in rundown, that's what TPS is. If Council has something to add, that's fine.
If you mind me interjecting just here to ask a question, which may lead to Mr. Pryde's next answer, his answer. When you say that those who are present on American soil by the 14th of April, are you suggesting that the TPS has been published? Are there directives already in place for application?
Not yet. That's what I said. I said, depending on what date it's churned out in the Federal Register. Because, yes, because that it might even change. It is the final date because how the laws are written here in the United States is, once like this particular piece of legislation, let's take this one as an example, it gets, DHS writes it, sends it to the president, he approves it, sends it to the next level, which is in the Federal Register where the laws have been published. In the end, that's the date. It might be the date of publication or the date that it was designated as, the law. So we don't know which date until that final piece of legislation comes out. It takes about 30 to 60 days for that to happen. So we are still in that particular process.
Okay, so Barrister Pryde, my question is, how does the TPS now benefit those who are already on American soil, say at the border, in the camps, or those who have actually gone through first hearing and maybe their cases were denied or they are on appeal? How would that benefit all those group of people?
If you are currently in the United States, or just like Council rightly said, we have to wait for the Federal Registrar to register this particular legislation. Now, as of now, Cameroon was designated on the 14th. So let's go on the premise that that is the date that stays on the Federal Registrar, right? So anyone that has been in the United States before the 14th is eligible. Now, if you came after the 14th, or if anyone is out of the country right now and is hearing that the United States has designated Cameroon as a TPS beneficiary, and they want to come in thinking they will benefit, they will not be eligible. Now, those that are in the United States on or before will be eligible. And what does that give them? What does that benefit them? One, you'll be able to stay here legally, at least for the period of time that has been designated, which as of now is 18 months. So you cannot be deported irrespective of your status. You are able to apply for employment authorization, and you're able to apply for travel document. So those are the benefits of the TPS. If you are eligible, apply and approve.
Okay, but
now, in regards to those that have already filed asylum cases or have lost their cases, they are still eligible. You just have to establish that you are a national of Cameroon, and there are several ways to do that. Your birth certificate, your Cameroon passport, national ID, those are things that you can use in establishing your nationality. And also you have to establish a continuous presence in the United States. So with those, you'll be eligible. Now, the other thing that I might want to talk about is what makes you ineligible. Who is not eligible for this? Not everyone that is here meets all these other requirements, might be eligible. If you have committed a felony, you are not eligible. If you have committed 2 or more misdemeanors, you are automatically disqualified. And if you have any bars to an asylum claim, then you will not be eligible to apply for TPS.
So there's another question that came up. Someone was asking if those who were here prior to the TPS and were rejected for their appeals, you said they cannot be repatriated, correct?
Correct. They'll be eligible, yes.
They're eligible. And someone is asking, what is the difference between the TPS and a beneficiary of a regular asylum or an asylum applicant?
Well,
that's a question. I see that, yes.
Well, the beneficiary, if you're an asylum applicant or an asylee, if your asylum has been approved, you have a pathway to citizenship. After being approved of an asylum case, a year after that, you're eligible to apply for a permanent residence card, right? So after being an asylee for a year, you can apply for a green card. And after holding that green card for 5 years, you're eligible to apply for citizenship. Now, TPS does not resort to any status. You cannot change your status based on TPS. What TPS does is that it stops the United States government from deporting you. They cannot deport you to your home country. And then you are able to work and you're able to travel. That is it. Now, in the meantime, you can adjust your status through other means while on TPS. For instance, if you say you had failed your asylum case and now you have the protection of TPS and you fall in love with an American citizen and get married to them, they are able to file for you and you adjust your status while on TPS. But TPS itself would not lead you to any status other than protecting you from being deported and making you, giving you the eligibility to travel and to work.
All right, thank you for that. First, Akufor, is there any cost associated with the TPS status? Is it free, or do people have to pay any filing fees or anything of the sort?
Yes, there is a fee. There is a fee, very minimal. I think it's like $50-something for you because the application is
$50 for the application and $85 for biometrics.
For your biometrics, so it's almost like it's for like $150, you can get TPS, less than that. So. And again, just to follow up on what Council said about being inadmissible in being present in the United States and you cannot benefit from TPS, he mentioned those 2 standards, which is you've either committed a felony or 2 misdemeanors, which is correct. But again, if you find yourself in that particular category and you think that you may not qualify for TPS, talk to an attorney because there might be waivers in your particular situation where you can still qualify for TPS. So don't just give up because you have a felony conviction. And of course, a felony in the United States under immigration law is, even if you're convicted for a year and above, if it's probation or a sentence that has been suspended, it is still a conviction under immigration law. So speak with an attorney to assist you on that particular file. Then about adjusting status also, yes, as Council said, you cannot adjust status if you're just on TPS. But especially if you came to the United States, just walking across the border, because that's different. If you came to the United States on a visa, you know, and you overstayed your visa and you are a beneficiary of this particular TPS, if you get married to a US citizen or a green card holder, yes, you can adjust and you can stay in the United States. But if you walked across the border and you know, let's say you lost your immigration case or it's still on appeal, and you know, you benefit from the TPS, you get married to a US citizen, at some point you still have to go back to your country and come back again, which is Cameroon. You still have to go back and come back and get a visa and come back. So those are very little intricacies where you need to speak with an attorney to assist you navigate all those ones. Not that you cannot really benefit from it, but speak to somebody who does that. And again, just using this opportunity to let, you know, our people know just the fact that I'm not trying to chastise them. I'm just, you know, it's good they're smart. They, you know, unlike people coming from south of the border where their basic language is Spanish, most of our people who come here, they speak and they understand English because most of them are very educated. But please always speak with somebody who is, you know, like counsel and myself or a legal practitioner to always push you through these things, because most of them, like last year, we did a program where about 80 Cameroonians were deported from the United States because they could not go through the asylum cases. And those were winnable cases, but just the fact that they decided to go through these cases by themselves without seeking legal counsel, you know, they just made it difficult by the time we came on, because he knows that by the time most of us came on these cases, it was just too late, because they had been issued deportation orders and we cannot really overturn those orders.
Another question that has come in now is the TPS extended beyond the 18 months? Historically, is there any instance where people have been able to stay longer, or they've been able to extend or renew the TPS status?
I think the secretary can either designate a country for TPS for 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months. And after the expiration of that period, they will reassess the situation of the home country, right? And see if there's not been any significant change, then they'll redesignate that country maybe for another 6, 12, or 18 months period of the TPS protection for their nationals.
Okay.
And just to follow up on that also, even if the, let's say DHS decides after 18 months, they decide not to renew TPS, saying conditions in Cameroon or the Southern Cameroon, everything is perfect, the president on that executive order, he can still do something. It is called a DED, which is called Deferred Enforced Departure. He can also sign and keep you guys, those people, those beneficiaries in the United States. But that's something that's a prerogative of the president. It's something that your community, our community, has to lobby the president at that moment if DHS does not reauthorize TPS.
And I think that was extended to the Liberian community. They were on TPS for a very long period of time.
I see. Yeah. Thank you both for those answers. So I have a question now. So those who are actually being processed as we speak, maybe at the border or in the cells or some holding cells, do they have 2 routes available to them right now to get work authorization? That is, can they file for asylum, or can they apply for the TPS, or can they do both? What is the route that you're going to take right now as being processed?
Those that are still out of the United States are not eligible. Those that are in detention, there should be no Cameroonian sitting in any detention right now with Cameroon being designated as a TPS country. Every single Cameroonian needs to be released immediately. However, in some cases, we might have to file a motion. A motion needs to be filed for them to be released based on TPS. But because Cameroon has been designated as a TPS eligible nation, all its nationals that are currently being held for immigration violations should be released immediately.
To follow up on that, so are you does that mean that their right to file an asylum is taken from them, or that they are
no, it is not. They could file they could file for the asylum out of detention, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Their right to file asylum still stands, but they should not be detained during this period of time when TPS has been designated to Cameroon.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Akufor?
Yes, what counsel is saying is, I mean, just, you know, reinforcing what he's saying, as he had said it before, on TPS, there is no pathway to for you becoming a green card holder, but your asylum claim itself, it's still, you know, you can do them both together, concurrent. You can do both of them, because sometimes asylum, it's a little bit, it takes a little bit longer, because I have clients who, you know, we did TPS for them, especially people from Haiti. We push them to Haiti, and their asylum cases, they've not even showed up in court yet. And they have work authorization based on TPS, but that TPS will not lead them to a green card but with the asylum, assuming that we win these cases in court, they can actually have a pathway to a green card and eventually become United States citizens, provided they follow the law all through the process.
Thank you very much for that clarification. So I have another question that has come through. As Southern Cameroonians, do you think we can also be included in a resettlement program like the Syrians and Ukrainians benefited?
Yes, and
absolutely.
Yes, because when you talk of resettlement, it means these people are not in the United States. That's the premise right there, because they're not here. Can you resettle them in the United States? It is correct, because if you there is something called the Lautenberg program, which started back in the you know, early 80s by a senator back in New Jersey, you know, trying to resettle Jewish people in the United States from the former Soviet Union or in the Soviet Union. So that program still runs now, and United States, you know, it's still piggybacking on that particular program to resettle people in the United States, provided the conditions in your country still permit them to do that resettlement. So let's say Southern Cameroonians, for example, because that's the group that has been affected most by this particular issue. If they're in Nigeria or out of Nigeria or some other part of Cameroon, or even in Cameroon itself, they can still be resettled in the United States. All they have to do is the NGOs and other pressure groups. If you can contact me, because there are 3 different priorities. There is a P1, there is a P2, there is a P3 priorities under the law in that particular situation. And, you know, for a P1 priority, you know, there are refugee claims wherein the ambassador of the United States in your country, in Cameroon for this particular case, might decide that there is a specific group that requires for them to be resettled in the United States. They can push that and it can actually happen. Or if it is out of the United States, out of Cameroon, like UNICEF or other, you know, United Nations programs, groups or NGOs, they can lobby the United States government, and through the Lautenberg program, they can be resettled in the United States. So yes, Southern Cameroonians can be resettled. Those that are not here, who are not beneficiary of the TPS, who are present in the United States.
I'll just add that, I mean, all that takes a lot of lobbying, right? And so our appeal to the Cameroonian community is to support some of these NGOs that we all hear about and belong to, but just, you know, we take the back seat when it comes to advocacy for our people. There are lots of organizations here in the United States, NGOs that particularly took part in advocating for TPS, for instance. But each time they try to lobby for us to give them some support, we don't usually show up to do that. Let's fall behind NGOs that are advocating for the rights of immigrants, especially Cameroonians, and things like the resettlement can start getting notice and start getting Congress people will be talked to, and we start pushing the envelope slowly but surely, just like we did with TPS. I belong to different groups that started fighting and advocating for TPS since 2016 for Cameroon, and look at how long it took us to get it. And so I would say let's be active as a community. Let's be pushful, and let's be very supportive of organizations that are advocating for our rights.
One last question from me. So I have a real life situation of someone in Cameroon who was abducted, taken to SCITH, tortured, and is seriously sick from the wounds and the scars that he sustained from the torture. How can we initiate something for people like this who are tortured, who are unable to go back to work, who are not able to resume life, whose family have fled, and how can we help them to resettle in the US, even though they're out of, they're in Cameroon and out of US soil in relation to TPS? How can that happen?
I don't think that's going to be possible on that TPS, but there are several other avenues, you know, like I mentioned before, pressure groups, NGOs, human rights organizations that can forecast and showcase this particular situation that might raise eyebrows, and under a humanitarian visa, he might be able to be relocated to the United States, either for treatment or for resettlement, just like Council had earlier mentioned. But under TPS, I don't think that there's going to be any possibility of such a person coming to the United States based on TPS.
Thank you for that clarification. Mr. Akufor, were you going to say something?
No, I mean, he just said it because, again, as I said, your ambassador in, let's say, the United States ambassador in Cameroon, like that particular case you're talking about, who is detained, that particular person is detained because of the crisis in the southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon, that particular crisis. If that's why he is there and that's how he's been tortured for humanitarian reasons, he can get a humanitarian visa to be resettled in the United States. It's very possible. Again, as Council said, you know, it is just based on the push from our community to these people, outreach, and letting them know that this is what's going on. We speak as one voice and let them know that this is well articulated very well and in a very well structured manner. They would take it because that's why they are ambassadors in that particular country, because they take these things and channel it back to the State Department, and the State Department sends it back to the United States, and these visas are issued, and he can come in on a humanitarian basis, as my brother said.
Thank you two very much for breaking down the TPS for us. So I'm going to ask the town hall, if you have time, they would ask you questions. If you're open to other questions, which I did not get to cover, now is the time to maybe ask our legal advisors for now. And I hope that we all tell our people who are, you know, in any form of immigration, any stage of the immigration process, to always seek legal counsel for the better chances of winning their cases. So please, the floor is open. Anybody who has someone's hand is
Attorney
raised.
Joyce, just to piggyback on that and to reiterate something that my learned colleague said earlier, our discussions here are in general terms, right? And so every case is different. The particularity of your case might be different from another person, and so what we seek legal counsel, meet with an attorney one-on-one, and explain the details of your particular situation, and then get legal advice as to how to circumvent certain issues that might arise in your consultation. So this is an informational session, and we speak in general terms when it comes to, say, requirements, eligibility, and all that.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. I just want to extend my appreciation to the two learned counsel. I didn't know, they explained many things which I didn't know, and I think some of the doubts that were in my mind about some of these things is quite hazy in my mind. I think I now know better, and they said I'm always very good to get the experts on these things to clarify a lot of things, because there's a lot of misunderstanding. Some people said this, others said that, others said this, and so on and so forth. But I think I now know better, and I think I can then tell somebody, look, you want better information and so on. Don't just depend on your own what you hear. Go and seek legal counsel. They will tell you exactly how to get about some of these things. But let me just ask one general question. Do we know for sure how many Ambazonians stand to benefit from TPS and where they are concentrated, if at all? Somebody was making a joke to me and said, "Know how stupid Ambazonian," it was a joke. "Know how stupid Ambazonian are? Francophones be the one who will take most of this whole thing even."
I don't think that I've not heard of any particular data that might support a particular statistics of Ambazonians, but I know that some numbers have filtered out that more than 20,000 Cameroonians in the United States stand to benefit from this TPS in different forms, in different eligibility standards, be it those that are currently on deportation or those whose cases are pending. They're all eligible, and those that I had a call from someone who's been in the United States for 25 years and has been without any status for 25 years. And has been working and looking over his shoulders, hoping and praying that today is not the day that they'll be picked up and sent back home. And this just brings more life into him, and that he'll be able to at least apply for this protection, be able to get a work permit and be able to work in his name for the first time in 25 years and be able to travel out of the United States. And so this is really huge, and it's changing a whole lot of people's lives. But when it comes to the statistics and the data, unless my learned colleague has some specifics, but I have not heard of any data that would support a particular number of Ambazonians that might benefit from this.
I don't think I have any specific numbers, Pryde. And I was with the Miss Lauren Seibert with Human Rights Watch, and I think she said thereby between 11 and 40,000 Cameroonians, that might be beneficiary of this particular program. So that tells you the number of Cameroon included, like the one that you just mentioned, somebody who's been living here for 20-something years with no status. So those are all included. But Ambazonians, I don't know, but most of the people have been taking calls from family members at the, from Mexico. A cross-section of them, they speak English like you and I. So my presumption is they are from the Southern Cameroon. So, but again, that's just, we cannot really put a specific number to how many Southern Cameroonians are, will benefit from this particular program, but they will. And numerically, no, we are just like 20% of the entire place. So the other side is always, larger than our numbers.
Wow.
Let me just ask a quick question, if I may, just to follow up on what Barrister Aneneba just said. Are you saying people who are in Mexico on the other side of the border trying to come into the US are covered by the TPS?
Not really. It just depends. So the Title 42 that the president, it's in the Supreme Court right now, which they're trying to repeal. Some of those people, they were in the United States, but they sent them back to Mexico to go and wait for their court date to be here. So technically, those people, they are included. Because I just had a call from somebody who just arrived in Mexico. They just had a number. They've never stepped foot in the United States. So those ones will not be covered. But if you had been in the United States, there was you were like present, not admitted, but you were present in the United States before the 14th. Assuming you came here or at the border, they gave you papers and sent you back to Mexico to wait for your court date to come. Then I think, I'm not 100% sure in that particular case, you should qualify for TPS because you were present before the 14th. Assuming that the NTA, there was an NTA, which is a notice to appear for you in the immigration court, was issued before the 14th, then you should be considered present in the United States before the 14th.
All right. I think I've been holding, and
so we have 3 hands up.
Yeah.
And Dr. Emma, go ahead.
Let's go ahead. My first question is, for asylees, you can't go travel back to your home country. you know, that you're seeking asylum for TPS, does that also apply? Second question is, we have a situation, I mean, given the you know, snail pace at which a lot of documentation is proceeding in America. I mean, how long does it take to process TPS? And would some of these people eventually have their papers processed like 18 months after they initiated it, given the current pace at which things are slowing down? And then thirdly, I think the point that Professor Nyamboli was making, actually a lot of people made this point, you know, the predicate of that is that as people hear that the TPS, that is TPS, Cameroon has been granted TPS, people with connections in Cameroon may start getting their people out here. I know you guys have said those people don't qualify, but in the case of Liberia and Haiti, for instance, where these disasters occurred, I mean, have been this crisis have been lasting over time and they've been renewed. So if you come here now, I mean, like those people who will come in, and if the renewal takes place 18 months from now, are those people now going to be included, you know, for that batch? Or it's all the people in the origin who were originally here at the time of the establishment of TPS? So those will be my three questions. Thanks.
So let me start from the bottom, then my brother can continue jumping anytime. Your last question, because I did not catch your first one, Brother Edmond, for the fact you would have to repeat that first one. I caught the last two. The last one is
I got the first one. I would answer that.
Okay, good. Okay, I'll take the next two. So from the third one, you asked whether if people who are outside Cameroon right now and they happen to be in Cameroon after this current designation, and if it expires and they are in the United States and they decide to reauthorize TPS, do they qualify? Yes, because at that point, the government, DHS, would designate a new date. Because I just have someone from Yemen, you know, they were not here when the original TPS was granted for Yemen. So she came later on down the line. And when it was reauthorized, so DHS has the power to insert any date and decide who is a beneficiary. So this lady would qualify. So to get to your point, if someone lives Ambazonia today, or Cameroons, or the Southern Cameroons, or the Republic of Cameroon, and comes to the United States today, they do not qualify. But if after 18 months, you know, they decide to reauthorize it and insert a new date which covers them in the United States, then they would qualify. Then the other one is the TP, which technically this one answers that question about the TPS timeline. Let's say you today, because technically 6 months, you should have it should be approved. But again, with the backlog and all that stuff, it's a little bit difficult, you know, so they don't have the manpower to process most of these documents. So if, let's say April 14 is the date, you know, and you apply April 14, within 18 months, you don't have your TPS, does that automatically, it's been taken? No, you know, once the date starts counting when it's approved. Once it's approved, they give you 18 months from that date. Even if they've decided to take it down, you still qualify within that time period. Council, you can take the, Mr. Edmond, I think that's, except you have any follow-up besides that, then Council can take the first one.
Yeah, Mr. Edmond's first question was the ability to travel to home country after being approved for asylum and or TPS. Now, with asylum, for a fact, you cannot return to a country that you are claiming is persecuting you or that has persecuted you in the past and for which asylum was granted. That defeats the whole purpose of your claim, your asylum claim of persecution, right? Now, with the TPS, you can actually travel to your home country. But as an attorney, I would advise strongly against that. That if you are given this protection because of a condition or conditions that exist in your country, and then you travel back there and comfortably stay there and come back, that kind of demerits the protection and determination of the protection that the United States has accorded that nation. However, there is no statute that stops you from traveling to your home country on TPS, but it just, you might be stopped at the port of entry and questioned, and your TPS might be revoked. The Border Patrol officers have a discretion to make that determination whether to admit you or not. If you are on TPS and you're coming back from the country from which you've been accorded protection from, you can travel to any other country, but also just note that there is equally the continuous presence requirement that you have to meet. You can't just say, for instance, you're not traveling to Cameroon, you travel, say, to Nigeria, and you just stay there for 6 months and you're on TPS, and then you try to return. You might have lost your continuous presence in the United States, and you might not be admitted. So that's the long and short of it.
Just to follow up on that with another question, would you need to have an advanced parole, like with the TPS as well, or you would just be able to apply for travel document and leave?
You'll be able to, if you have an approved TPS, you're going to be able to apply for travel documents.
Not advanced parole.
Correct.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. Advanced parole travel documents is just permission to re-enter without a visa.
The same thing.
Okay. Ms. Vivian, if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question, please.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, our attorneys, for coming on board and talking to us about TPS. I just wanted to make a little comment on Dr. Anyangwe's question about, and I've equally faced a lot of those comments like, okay, how many Southern Cameroonians are gonna benefit from this thing? Even if it's one Southern Cameroonian that benefits from it, that's one too many, right? Because the same way a Southern Cameroonian will be treated when they're deported is not the same way a French Cameroonian will be treated. We all know that. There's that discriminatory behavior in our home country. Secondly, I wanted to ask our attorneys this very important question. They've given TPS for this set number of months. What are the other asks that we as Southern Cameroonians are facing this? What are these other, I know there are numerous other asks that we can ask in order to establish a stay or establish a pathway towards residency or citizenship. Anyone can go first, please. Thank you.
Yes, I mean, the only pathway for citizenship for the, assuming you're talking about Southern Cameroonians, it's political asylum. That's it, because TPS will not take you anywhere. And depending how you enter the United States, because it makes a big difference how you enter the United States, whether you came here on a visa or you just walked across the border, it makes a big difference how you change your status from being a non-immigrant to an immigrant. So if you're a Southern Cameroonian and you're here and you cannot go back, if you came here on a visa and let's say you're lucky to find your loved one to get married to, yes, you can adjust. If you have a father or a mother or a daughter or a son who is a US citizen, they can file for you, they can petition for you, and you stay in the United States and you can have your papers. But if you walk across the border, it's totally different. You would at some point go back to your home country and get a visa and re-enter the United States. So it makes a big difference. So to make it short, if you are here, you're from the Southern Cameroon's political asylum is the best route for you to get a permanent legal status here in the United States.
Absolutely correct. Just to add to that or explain a little further, when you come in through the southern border without a visa, you're assumed or you are termed to have come in without inspection. All right. So if you come in without inspection, it means you came in illegally, right? The only way for you to adjust your status and have a pathway to citizenship, as counsel rightly said, is through asylum. Any other means, you would have to go back and come in legally in order to adjust. So you have to come in with inspection in order to adjust, with the exception of asylum. Basically, is what he's saying.
Thank you very much for, I think that's very clear. Ms. Vivian, do you agree?
Absolutely, yes. And I just wanted to add that the fact that TPS is now officially in, the significance of it, a lot of people might not see, but to me, it was more about the acceptance by the US and the international community that there is a conflict officially. That acceptance was not pertaining to the fact that Cameroon has multiple conflicts. No, they didn't mention that. The statement clearly read from the Secretary, Mayorkas, that they're formally acknowledging that Cameroon is in a conflict, not conflict with the S. So I just wanted to notate that is one of the most significant aspects of TPS. It might not be the TPS itself where Southern Cameroonians are benefiting from it. My thing is the fact that now we have a basis. We have a baseline that Cameroon is in a war officially, and we can walk from there. Thank you.
And just to add on that, Vivian, in addition to the fact that the secretary mentioned the conflict, he also mentioned Boko Haram. I just wanted to clarify that there were two reasons that the secretary noted. One is the conflict, and two is Boko Haram.
So I was just reading on the Congressional Research Service, which was published April 19, 2022, and it says that about 11,900 Cameroonians are going to benefit from the TPS so far. Dr. Mufa, please unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Yeah, good evening to everyone. Comrade Vivian Ayafor just introduced the direction of my question, not focused on the issue of residency and visa for people of Cameroonian nationality, but looking at the possible impact of this TPS on the Amazonian liberation struggle. So the first point is that it is a recognition of this conflict. Then the second point I would like to look at is if we consider that the US is going to grant residency status to people who were not entitled to this status initially, this will mean that the US will have something to lose. What I mean is that, granting them this residency status or TPS status would can be looked upon as something positive or negative as far as immigration is concerned. But let's look at it from the perspective of the US that had not granted these people any status because they were not entitled to it, now going to grant them all of this status. So it may look like a disadvantage to the US. So my question is, keeping all of this in mind, the recognition of the conflict and this, what I would call for now, disadvantage for the US. Does this kind of push or motivate the US to kind of hasten up or increase their effort in resolving the conflict that has led to the US taking this decision of granting a certain country the TPS status? I'm asking this not only to the legal minds, but also to others who are here who might have got experience in the other cases where the US granted TPS status to other countries. Thank you.
Yeah, let me jump on that because I have spoken on this particular issue before, not on this particular platform, and recognition of the conflict in the Southern Cameroons and the Republic of Cameroon. I think, and when I was with Ms. Lawrence Seibert of Human Rights Watch, I did mention the fact of, Boko Haram is in Nigeria. I know they do cross-border attacks. Nigeria could be designated, for TPS also because there is the Biafran conflict also. But I think those two conflicts have not arisen to the level where they can be granted TPS. So what has actually motivated or pushed this idea about TPS to be granted is because of the conflict between the Republic of Cameroon and the Southern Cameroon. You cannot take it. I know they might mention Boko Haram, but again, it is because of this conflict. Before 2016, when this conflict started, Boko Haram had been around, you know, it's been there for the longest time. Why didn't they grant Cameroon TPS? Thanks to the lobbying group here, the Cameroon Advocacy Network, I think Council is there, and Ms. Ayafo is also a part of all that contingency. I think they worked extremely hard to get Cameroon to be, again, the Southern Cameroons, or Ambazonia as you call it, I don't think it's a country yet, so they cannot say they're granting TPS to Ambazonia. They have to grant it to Cameroon. Then they also benefit, you know, those who are not from the other side of the Mongo. Then about you know, if this would not motivate the United States to resolve the issue, I think the United States has a very big stick to wield, and they can do it anytime. When I look at this stuff, I look at George Kennan, who was like he's of late. He was the architect of American containment after the Second World War, and what he did after the Second World War, crafting American policy, because after that Second World War, America was the most powerful country, the richest in the world, and you know, they were getting territories in Asia and other parts of the world to, you know, just to get their influence. But George Kennan said to Europe, please go exploit Africa as much as possible to, you know, to rebuild your economies. And that was under the authorization of the United States. So if tomorrow America wants the Southern Cameroons to go where they want to go, I think it is very possible. You just need a lobbying effect. If you, the Secretary Blinken, when he just came out, there were two countries that he mentioned in Africa. It was the Southern Cameroon conflict, and the other one in Tigray. You know, the Southern Cameroon conflict has just like dropped down the radar. Tigray has dropped slightly also, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're not looking at this conflict. They know it is there. They know the reason why TPS was granted is because of the Southern Cameroon issue, not because a general Cameroon issue, because there is no problem in Cameroon. In the other side, you know, they might grapple with what they, you know, their political issues that they have. They love it that way, but there is a problem somewhere within that dispensation where people just don't want to belong. So that's where the conflict is. So I think that answers that other question. America, they would always come in when they want, and I think they wield a big stick, and if they want the Southern Cameroons to be where they are, they would, because you remember that when this union came together a long time ago, we all know the history, you know, the CIA, they said this is a powder keg that has been kept somewhere, it will come up one day, and this is what happens. So they know all these things from its inception, and they know how they can tackle this. We just need to get the right people to lead the, you know, lead the masses and see where we go from there. I think the other one about granting status with TPS, again, Council had said it does not really grant you status. The thing that can actually grant you status in the United States is, especially for those who are coming here fearing persecution, it is political asylum or any other form of persecution that you face in your country.
Thank you very much for your very elaborate responses. I think you've answered most of our questions we had in mind and the confusion we had between the applicability of and eligibility for TPS. So if there are no further questions, I'll just ask you both to make your closing remarks and
I think there's one hand up.
Please, may I follow up on what Attorney just said?
Yes, you may. I do not see your hand.
Yes, thank you so much. I just wanted to add a little bit to what Attorney Akufor said, just to really reiterate on the fact that a lot of Southern Cameroonians, aka Ambazonians, worked tirelessly on TPS. I just want to note that because there has been so much talk out there so many people coming out and saying, oh, well, TPS was granted because of this or because of that. I just want to note that being one of the people who did not sleep on this thing, I want us to give credit, a lot of credit to Grassroots Law Project. A lot of people don't know about these very hard-working group of attorney generals and attorneys who knew very little about what the conflict in Cameroon is all about, but they partnered with Cameroon Advocacy Network to get this done. They set up a system where all Cameroonians or Southern Cameroonians had to call their senators. That system was set up by Grassroots Law Project. And I want us Southern Cameroonians to credit these people, because with their partnership, personally, I was able to get my Georgians involved a lot. So let's not take this thing for granted, please. Let's work on it. This is the basis. Let's use TPS to get a lot of the things that we need from the system, from the US. And yes, I know the US can deliver. The US is capable of ending this crisis on a very positive way for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Nyamboli. Your last words, Mr. Akufor?
Round up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you people so much. I mean, this is like, it's like a consultation within a consultation, because it was deep and very profound, for real, because the questions just, I've spoken like to 50 clients already today, because these are like a variety of the type of questions we receive from clients. So thank you guys so much for getting us on board. Anytime, let us know legal questions, especially when it comes to this particular topic, please get us on board. I think we like to hear, like when Professor was speaking, he kept talking, let our geographers come and talk, let our doctors come and talk. I think that's what it is, because you like to hear from people who do some of this stuff. I think it gives you a little bit of a different perspective, how you approach these things, and you can talk to people. So thank you for getting this together, and I won't take off your time, and thank you for inviting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very,
Thank
very
you
much.
so much.
I'm so happy.
Thanks,
Thanks, Vivian, for the good work.
I think we lost Pryde.
No, Pryde is there. I see him. I see him.
Yes,
Is Pryde back?
So
Yes, here.
I am.
Oh,
Yeah, so thank you also very much for this opportunity and this platform. Of course, now a whole lot of people at peace, clearing out some doubts and some misinformation. There's a lot of misinformation out there about the TPS. We pray that with this word will go around. Those that are present here would try to educate others based on the knowledge they've acquired from this talk and discussion, and always have them, call an attorney to do a formal consultation about their particular situation, and to see that we take advantage of this. The one thing that I will add is that Cameroonians should be on the way that TPS is not going to be open for an indefinite period of time for you to apply. Once the Federal Registrar publishes the TPS for Cameroon, they're gonna give specific period within which you must apply for it. If that period expires and you have not applied for it, you would not be able to apply for it unless you can show just cause why you did not apply during the period of that was designated for application. So please start gathering your documents, getting everything ready, get an attorney that will be able to help you with that process, and start getting all the necessary documentations together, so that once they open up the time to start filing, you want to file within the deadline. So with that, I would say thank you all again once more. My learned brother, Councillor Akufor, and myself are available and at your disposal. If you want to invite us for any other legal topics for us to discuss and educate our people, please feel free to invite us. Thank you again so very much.
Excellent.
It was indeed our honor to have you both.
Yes.
And we were going to spread the message, and please get a lawyer Don't try to present yourself. Don't use University of YouTube. Get yourself a lawyer to get to have your chances increased of winning your case.
And I hope there will be an Ambazonian, a Southern Cameroon or an Ambazonian law organization. I mean, a lawyers organization.
Why not? They can do it.
We need it.
That's my
we need
challenge.
it seriously.
That is my challenge to you. I talk as a physician, and we already have.
That's a great one right there.
Well, yeah, we already have.
Let's stop them there.
You see, coincidentally,
you two can lead it.
We do have it.
Coincidentally, that is a conversation that Councillor Akufor and myself we've had.
Right.
We've worked together in other cases, and we continue to work closely together, and that is something that we have discussed. And so you're right on point with that.
Wonderful.
That we have the earnest to be able to realize this, and I think we will.
If you need a secretary, but who can write
together
in
we
pidgin.
win. That's
If you
right.
need a secretary who can write in pidgin, you can hire me. Because I won't be able to write.
Thank you.
Translator.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
We would,
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Barrister
Wonderful.
Joyce. Thank you, Barrister Akufor. Thank you, Barrister Pryde. I think this is being broadcast on SCBC, so even our people on ground zero are learning from what you're saying. So thank you very much.